we're going to talk about a topic that one of you had suggested, and that was, why is the internet less social than it used to be? Or why does it at least feel like it's less social than it used to be? And I thought that was a very interesting topic, so I wanted to talk about it. Because I think what it really boils down to is the enormous difference between having a tool that makes it easier for you to do what you were going to be doing anyway and to do it better, and having a tool that eliminates your creativity and eliminates your agency and essentially makes it so that you don't have to put in effort at all. So for example, let's say there was a time when people would always network in person. People had social lives, they talked to each other, and then the telephone was invented. And so suddenly it was possible for people to talk to each other on the phone. And that was amazing, because it meant that people who were far away, people who wouldn't be able to otherwise have that conversation, could pick up the phone, and now they could talk to somebody and keep in touch. And that would be seen as such a blessing. But what a difference it is today, where now phones are an excuse, social media is an excuse to say, well, we have the appearance and facsimile of connection, but the reality is we avoid each other more than ever before. So we're not using the tool so that we can reach further. We're using it as a tool, which is an excuse for not reaching out at all. Same thing with the internet. There was a time when the internet was a tool that would have made it able for us to reach further and to do more, to learn more, to experience more. But then somewhere along the way, it became an excuse for doing less, for experiencing less. Instead of reading books, we now read sound bites. Instead of getting in touch with people in person and spending a day with a friend, you just have them as a friend on Facebook or Instagram, but it's super easy to ghost them or delete them whenever you don't feel like being connected anymore. You can still say that you're friends even though you've ignored them for years. That's the kind of thing which has been a problem with the internet age. We've seen it in video games, where there was a time when games were made with higher levels of at-release, at-launch quality. Because you went to the store, you got the disc, there was no thought in your mind, is this game going to have bugs? Is it going to be half-baked? Because it was the final edition. It went gold, it was launched, it was published, and it was printed to disc, and you were going to get it, and then you were going to have it. That was it. There wasn't any patching. It was just the finished product. It was what it was. And then the internet came, and we started to have this opportunity to have a sense of live service. And that was great, because now you could have a patch, you could have an update, you could have more convenience than you ever would have had before, which was great. Great until it became an excuse for having lower quality. Great until it became a thing where every game has a bunch of paid DLC that's monetized in an excessively aggressive way, and people are paying $10 or $20 for a skin on a mount or some silly thing that's really not worth that amount of money. But because it's live service, companies can get away with robbing people in a way that they never would have been able to do when games were published on CD-ROMs or floppy disks or something. So the internet has become less social because instead of it being a tool that we use as part of a well-rounded social life, the internet has become a replacement for our social life. And so a tool that's supposed to make us more empowered has become an excuse for us to forget who we are. It's become so easy to not learn things. There's an interesting survey where people were asked, I want you to take a piece of paper and you're going to just sit there without any points of reference and you're going to draw a map of the United States. And most people struggled to quickly draw a map of their own country that depicted all 50 states. So that's a good example, though, of how ignorant we can become because we think we know everything, because we scan our news feed all the time. We have opinions about everything, and yet we lost the ability to even know basic things. Like, how do you have extremely dogmatic beliefs about how the political environment should be when you don't even know your basic geography? Like, you don't even know half the states in the country that you live in. So how are you going to be in a position to be super dogmatic about politics? And maybe that's a broader issue, but I certainly think it's an issue exacerbated by the fact that the internet makes it super easy to learn targeted information when we want it. It's on demand. But we lack the depth of a well-rounded education because we, in many cases, have been educated by the internet. We've been educated by the little sound bites and 30-second feeds that we skim. So we don't know what it's like to really read an extended history book cover to cover and study it and get this in-depth encyclopedic knowledge of issues. We get a lot of surface level targeted information courtesy of the internet, which we can now use in the palm of our hands at all times. But take it away, and what do we really have? How many of us even know anything about the world to where we can speak to it educatedly if we don't have the internet as a reference point? And that's just, it's like, if you have a command and control economy where everything is made locally in that country, the country owns its entire method of production from beginning to end. Well, maybe that country is going to be more backward because they're not going to be able to have access to the international economy. But they're also going to be more self-sufficient because what they do produce, they produced end-to-end themselves. They mined the ore, they made the steel, they made the railroad ties, they built the locomotives, they created the train engine and the track and everything, and now they have a train system that they built from the ground up, extracting the raw materials and crafting it into something more. And then you compare that to a first world country that has outsourced a lot of production. Well, the quality is higher. The quality is higher because the marketplace is bigger. But then you look at the individual person and you realize, well, everybody knows some very small specialized thing that they do to participate in the economy, but nobody knows how to do anything that's actually, going to allow them to be self-sufficient. Like, I know how to make spreadsheets and make phone calls in the office, or I know how to program one specific aspect of some specialized piece of machinery, or whatever it might be. But can I just take care of myself off in the wilderness and, build a house for myself? Or like maybe I'm totally helpless in that way. So I think that's kind of the same thing with the internet, where we've gotten a lot more value out of the internet than we ever could get from any other medium. But we've also lost that well-roundedness. And so it all feels a little more fake because instead of being well-rounded as a whole, we are sort of really good at a very specific thing, but never enough that we could stand on our own 2 feet anymore. Like now we use the internet as a crutch. We use it as a replacement for social life. And so it's all just kind of fake. And that's really what it all boils down to. And I don't know what the solution is, you know? I think the reality is we're just moving toward a new era of human civilization. One of 2 things is going to happen. Either something wild will happen and we will go back to some sort of a Stone Age kind of situation, like Fallout 4 video game is going to become reality and we're going to just go back to the Stone Age for a while. And that's possible. Or more likely, probably, I think we're going to just sort of evolve into something beyond what we have been in the past. And that will come with good, it will come with bad, and then it will come with a lot of new questions that will probably arise about what is the direction we should be trying to go as a civilization. How do we live in a world with AI and internet and all of the different things that change our lives, and how do we still be authentically human through all of that? And we already are seeing things like that with the AI revolution, where people are now getting infatuated with AI, and it's still in its infancy kind of, so it's not that big of a deal, but you can really see where it's going, that it's going to potentially eventually be a big deal. And you know, what are we going to do when AI is more of a personality than real people are? Because you can have a real conversation with an AI and people don't have any personality because nobody thinks for themselves anymore. I mean, it's already kind of like that, because if I went to a chat bot and I asked them for a thought-provoking conversation about something, the chat bot is going to probably be able to have a better conversation with me about an in-depth topic than a typical random person on the street would, because the person I would just find probably doesn't even know anything about it. At least the chat bot would be able to have a conversation, even if it sounds like it's talking itself in circles. It's still going to at least be able to understand what I'm asking it. So we're already at that cusp where it's starting to feel like an AI chat bot has more capacity for critical thinking than some people do, which is kind of crazy. I think we got to look at both sides of it, because, you know, I'm a fan of gaming. I'm a fan of AI to a point. Like, I think, like, I was watching a video where somebody was looking at AI being integrated into Skyrim, so the companions in Skyrim would be able to talk to you. And I thought, wow, isn't that pretty crazy? You know, and that's actually pretty cool. Maybe sometime, if I have the time and I feel like messing around with it, I will check that out. But the point I'm getting at is that AI is not all bad. The internet is not all bad. It's not really a thing about saying that it's good or bad. It's just, with new changes come new problems. And I do think simplicity is many times the solution. We should be able to let go of things to a point. And that's where I think taking a break from some of the more toxic elements of the internet and focusing on things that are more authentic is important. Because if somebody doesn't want to have a conversation with you in person, and they're going to constantly dodge you, and they're going to have that internet personality of saying, well, you know, we're friends and I want to be part of your life until I don't feel like I'm in the mood for it, and then, you know, they just kind of vanish for a while as the internet makes it easy to do. Well, fair weather friends, people who want to be friend by name, but they don't actually want to invest any time or effort into you. Well, like, those are the kinds of things where you just don't need to spend a lot of your time focused on things that don't bear fruit in your life. And I think that we should probably step away from the internet for those core building of relationships and friendships, so that we can really get to know who we are and get to know other people in a holistic, authentic way. Like, interestingly, that's one reason why I would say I like gaming more than I like things like Facebook. It's one reason why I like YouTube better than things like Instagram. Because on YouTube, you build a relationship with your audience, or you build a relationship with the community on a specific channel that you follow. So there's a sense of depth there that you may not get from other forms of social media. Same thing in a game. You play a game a bunch for a while, then maybe you get to know members of that community in some way, but there's a level of depth there that's a little bit more than just, adding somebody on Facebook or following somebody on Instagram. And I do think we spend too much time doing that kind of stuff. So sometimes just take a break from all that and then make a point to, maybe let go of people who are always adding noise to your life. They're always somewhere in the orbit, but they're never really actually serious about being a meaningful part of your life. Cut those people out, because life is too important, too valuable to be wasting it on people who want appearances, but they don't want substance. And the internet does make that much more easy than it used to be. So build your building on foundations of principles that endure, and then, let the internet be maybe the cherry on top, the decoration, the cornice, not the foundation. Because if you build permanent structures with temporary materials, they will fail. Just like a house I saw that was built on stilts on the beach, then the hurricane came in. Well, that house got washed right up onto the beach, and it was done. And it's kind of hard to even feel sorry for people in that situation, because when you decide you're going to build a resort house on stilts on a beach on sand in a hurricane-prone area, you really can't be super surprised when it gets washed out. So maybe that's the lesson. The internet is a great tool, but don't let it use you, and don't expect it to be something more than what it is, which is ultimately just a tool in our lives. As always, thanks so much for watching. Till next time.